everyone, Alvin Blox here, and in this advanced Roblox scripting tutorial, we're going to make our own admin commands from scratch. Yep, you heard it right. This is the video that a lot of people have been waiting for, and it is an advanced video, so if you do find it a little bit confusing, then do check out my beginner scripting series so that you're up to scratch with everything else related to scripting. So, I've got a script in here, and this is just the outline of the admin commands that we will be making. I've got that open in another window just so that we make sure we don't go wrong, so you don't need to worry about that script. But what you do need to do is insert a script into server script service. I'm going to call it admin commands. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a table, and that table is going to have all of our commands in. So local commands equals and then table. Now we're going to create a basic command, and that's going to be a teleport command. So firstly, to create a new admin command, we're going to insert a table or a function into that table, and that function is going to be the command. So firstly, say commands, which is the table, and then when you want to insert something into it, you can either, well, you can just say dot, and then you put the name of the command. So if you wanted it to be teleport, you just say teleport like this. Okay, so I'm going to say TP because it's short for teleport. So commands.tp, so this is the command name. This is what we'll have to say to run the command. So commands.tp equals function. Okay, so we've created this function here, and then we'll drop a line and have an end here. Okay, so just like so. And that is our admin command. So any code that goes in here will run when you say the command TP. Okay? So this is the function that we're going to run when we say TP. Now, what we'll also do is have a like a slash or a prefix. So if you want, you can make a function for that. So a variable. So local prefix equals, and it's going to be a forward slash, and that's what our prefix will be. Let's see. In fact, yeah, go on. We'll have a forward slash, but you could do whatever you want. You could do a colon or a semicolon or a hyphen, whatever. Put your prefix in there. So now we need to detect when someone sends a message so that we can run the function. So we need to have a player added event, which will run when a player first enters the game. And again, I'm not going into much detail on things like events and functions, because you should know that from the beginner series. So when the player is first joined, we have to create a chatted event. So this will fire when they chat in the chat window. So player.chatted connect function. So this event will run when obviously they chat a message, and we've got two arguments here which give us information about that chat message. So we've got the message contents, so that's the first argument, and the second argument is the recipient. So if it was a whisper to somebody, then the recipient would be the player that got that message. So what we can do is we can take their message, which they've sent, and we need to convert it into lowercase. And you'll see why we do this, but basically, because if they were to say TP, they could either say it like that in lowercase, or they could say in uppercase, or they could say, T in lowercase, P in uppercase, or like this. There's lots of different ways of saying TP or our command. So in order to make the command work for every variant of saying TP, then we can just convert it to lowercase. So if they did say TP, well, then we can just convert it to lowercase. So it's going to be TP. Okay? So we can just get the message, and we can update it to be the lowercase version. And to do that, we say string.lower. So when you put a string inside of this string.lower function, it will convert it into lowercase. So that TP will become TP in lowercase. So we've now just converted it to lowercase and updated it. Next, we need to split the message up, because they've what they're going to do, they're going to write it like this. So it's going to be like this, okay? So this is going to be their message. Now what we want to do is we want to split it up. So wherever there's a space, we want to split it up into 3 different words. So this will be its own word, this will be its own word, and this will be its own word. And so what happens is it gets split into a table like this. So you'll have the first message and then a new item in the table, so a comma to separate it, like this, okay? So each word, or set of characters that are together and not separated by a space, will be in their own table object like this, okay? So to do that, to split them, we need to create a variable first for the split string, so the string that's been split up, and we can say message, because that's the string that we're going to split up, colon, split, okay? And inside of these brackets, we need to tell the script how it should split it. So when should it split the string? Should it split the string when it sees a space? And if so, then we'll just have a space in there, like that. So whenever there's a space, it's going to split the string up. And whenever there is a space, it will add a new item to the table, like this. Okay, so all that's doing is converting it into table form so that we've got each individual part of the command. So we've got, firstly here, the command that they're saying, and then we've got the player that they want to teleport, and then the player that they want them to teleport to. And obviously, if you had more arguments, so maybe you needed to put, I don't know, another player, it's just going to keep splitting it up because there's a space, so you could have infinite arguments and it would just split them up. So as long as there's a space, it will split it up into table form. Now, we need to get the command. We need to check whether they've said the teleport command, because they might be asking for another command. So we need to get the first item out of that table, which is going to be the slash and command. So to do that, we can say local, another variable. I'm just going to call this one slash command, because we've got the slash and then their command. And that is going to be the first item in the split string table, isn't it? It's going to be this one here, because it's the first item in this table when we split it up, and it converted the message into table form. So this is what split string is going to be. It's going to be this table, and for the slash command, we are just getting the first item in that table, which is going to be the slash TP. So this is going to be the slash TP part, whereas this is going to be our table, like this, okay? So now, what we need to do, now that we've got that slash command, is we need to split it again. So we need to get rid of the slash, okay? We just want the name of the command so that we can check what the command is. So local cmd for command equals, and again, you can call these variables whatever you like, but just keep them on topic. So cmd, our command, is going to be the slash command, which includes the slash, but we're going to split it again. Now, whenever there is a forward slash, or a prefix, in fact, let's say prefix, because that's the variable. Whoops. Oh, by the way, I have a really dodgy X key on my keyboard. Recently, it's just been playing up, so that's why that happened. So, whenever we see a prefix, so our forward slash, we need to split it up. So, it's going to look like this. So, it's given us another table, but the first item in the table is going to be the slash, and the second item is going to be the TP, because we've separated it. We've now split it up wherever there's a slash. So the first object in this table is going to be the slash, and the second object in this table is going to be the name of the command. So if we wanted to get the name of the command, command name equals cmd, and it's going to be the second object, isn't it? Because this table that's split up, we want to get the name of the command, and that's going to be the second one. So we've now got the name of that admin command. Brilliant. So what next? Well, we need to check the command, right? We need to see if it is an actual command. So, because we put all of our commands into this table by saying commands.tp, that TP function is going to be inside of this table. So we can easily check if it's a real command by saying if commands, and then we're going to do square brackets and put the command name in there. So if the command is in that table, it's a real command, then we need to fire that function, don't we? So we can say commands, command name, and that's going to be the function. And then we need to, start this function. We need to execute it. And we all know to run a function, we have to give the name of the function, which is going to be this. And then we do the pair of brackets. So we've just called a function. The only difference is that instead of actually saying TP, you can't just say that because TP isn't a global function. It's a function inside of the commands table. And so to get it, you have to say commands.tp. But obviously, we don't know the name of the command that is going to be executed, because what if we had 50 commands? We can't just say commands.tp. We'd have to give the name of the command. So instead of saying .tp, we say in square brackets the command name. Okay? And we can't say .command name like this, because what if we had a function or a command that was actually called command name? It would run that instead of running the designated function. So we have to say it in square brackets. So there we go. We've just fired our TP function. So what I want to do now is I want to run the game. Let's play the game and see what happens, and hope that we don't have any errors yet. But we should get that print to the output telling us that the command ran. So let's do /TP and just run it. And there we go. So it's printed out from the function, the TP function. This will run when you say the command TP, and so it did. So what happened was we chatted, and it converted our message into lowercase, and then we split it up into a table for each part of the message. So the first one being the teleport command, and the second one being any other arguments that we have. In this case, we only said /TP, so there weren't any other arguments, but TP was still the first argument in the table, the command. So we then got that TP, the first item in that table, and then we split up that slash and TP. We split it up into the slash and the TP, and then we managed to get the name of the command from that, and then we could check if it was a real command in the table, which it was because we inserted it at the start of the script, and then we fired the function. So when we fired that function, it printed that this will run when you say the command TP. Now that's great, but how do we actually teleport the player? Well, we need to send data to this function, don't we? We need to send the we're going to send the sender. We're going to tell the function who sent the message, and we're also going to have our arguments. So we need to send the player that's going to be teleported and the player that we're going to teleport them to. So firstly, let's send our first argument, and that's going to be the player that sent the message. Then up here in the function, we will pick it up and we'll just give them an argument name of sender. Okay, so if we were to run it again and we printed out sender.name, it would print out your name because you chatted to initiate the command. And there we go, it prints out Alvin_Blox, as it should do. So now we need to get, if there are arguments in the message, like Alvin Bob, we need to get that out and send it to our function. So to do that, we're going to create a table. And this table is going to be our arguments that we're going to send. We're going to send them in a table form. So anything that goes in this table is going to contain the next things that we've said, the next split parts of the message. So, for example, the players that you want to teleport. So now that we've got our arguments in we've just created the table, we need to put the players' names from the message, if there are any, into the arguments table. So to do this, we can do an if statement. Okay? So sorry, not an if statement. What am I saying? A for loop. So for I equals 2, and this will make sense in a minute. Hashtag split string 1 do table.insert. I'm going to explain all in a minute. So we're going to insert into the table called arguments split string I. Now you may be very confused as to what's happening here, but let's go back to the split string. Now let's imagine that we sent the message with 2 players that are going to be teleported. So this is the first item in that table, isn't it? So this is the second one. Now, because we only want to get the names of the players that are going to be teleported, they're going to be from the second argument onwards, aren't they? Because this is the first item, this is the second item, this is the third. So we only want to insert into the arguments table the second and third items from that table, because we only want the players' names. So we are doing a for loop, which will start off at 2, and it will go on for as many arguments that we've said. So if there are 5 arguments, then we will go from 2 to 5. So hashtag split string is going to be the length of the table, so how many splits there are. So in this case, there are 3 splits. So it's going to go from 2 to 3. And what's going to happen is it's going to insert into the table the second item, because that split string I is going to start off at 2. So it's going to insert the second item into the arguments table. So it'll insert Alvin, and then it will loop round and increase by 1. So the I is now 3, and it will insert into the arguments table the third item. So it'll insert Bob. So we've just inserted Alvin and Bob into the arguments table, because we don't want to insert the first item. That's why we started off at 2, and we've got the 1 here because it's increasing by 1 every single time. Okay, so what we've done there is just basically put the players into the arguments table like that. So we have the key parts of the message that we need to send to the function, don't we? Because we need these players in order to teleport to each other. We need to teleport the first player to the second player. So that's what it's going to look like. So we're just going to get rid of that. That was just an example. But now what we need to do is we need to send that arguments table to the function. We've put our data in there, and we now need to send the arguments to this teleport function. So let's create a second argument and call it arguments. And it's going to be a table, going to be in table form. So the sender is going to be an object, and the argument is going to be a table. Okay, so what we now need to do is head back up to this function, and we need to loop through all of those arguments. So let's just remove this code here, and we now need to loop through that table. So for I, comma, player in pairs, in fact, so let's do in pairs arguments. Okay, do. So we're looping through everything inside of this arguments table, and obviously it's going to be a player name. Sorry. So yeah, it's going to be a player name because it's a string. Remember. So the player's name. What we need to do for each player name in this table, let's just print them out to make sure that it got sent to the function correctly. So if we run this, what's going to happen is if we do TP and then we write Alvin Blox, we write Bob, you can see what happened. It got the second and third indexes from our split message, and it sent them to the server, and we've printed it. Sorry, it sent it to the function, and it's printed it from the function. Okay, so that's great. We've got the arguments in our teleport function. So now what we need to do is, because they're player names, we need to actually get those players somehow, because we need their player objects in order to move them, and we can't just deal with their names. So let's firstly create 2 variables. The first variable is going to be the player to teleport, so player to teleport name. So the first person is the person that will get teleported, that will get moved. So that will be the first item in the arguments table. The second player is going to be the player to teleport to name equals arguments 2. So these are just variables for the 2 players' names. We then need to check to see if they are not nil values, if we've actually been past the player names, because the player might have only sent 1, so one of them will be blank. So let's just do an if statement. So if player to teleport name and player to teleport to name, so if they're not nil, then we need to find the player objects for these 2 players. So let's create a function that will do that for us. So at the top here, we're going to create a function. So local function find player, and we're going to take an argument of their name. What we're going to do is we're going to find the player in the players service. So we can say, and we're going to send the name of the player as an argument to this function, and then we can return the player object. So we're going to loop through all the players in the game. So for I, comma, player in pairs, game.players, colon, get players. So this will get all of the players currently in the game. And then we're going to say if we need to remember, because the name that we're sending, the name that we have got here, these two names, because we made them lowercase, we need to also make the player's name lowercase. So we need to say string.lower player.name is equal to the name of the player that we want. Then we've managed to find their player object, so we can just return it. So we've now returned a player object, and it's an object because it's inside of game.players. Okay, so now that we've got their player, we can access their character. And obviously, if we get to the end of this for loop and it hasn't returned yet, then it will just carry on. And so if it does carry on, we want to return nil to tell the or wherever we call it from that no player was found. So let's create two more variables for the actual player objects for these two. So we'll do local PLR, just to make it shorter, to TP equals find player, and we can use player to teleports name, and local player to TP2 equals find player, player to teleport to name. Okay, so we are calling this function twice to get the player objects of the two player names that have been sent to our teleport function that the player has put in their message. So we've now got their characters, okay? We just need to make sure that the characters are there. So let's just check that. Because they could be nil or they could have left the game. We don't want that. So now that we have got them and we are certain that they're in the game, we need to move the player to teleport to wherever the player to teleport to is, okay? So we can say player to TP dot character dot humanoid root part dot C-frame equals player to TP2 dot character dot humanoid root part dot C-frame. So what we're doing is we're moving the player to teleport to, we're setting the C-frame of their humanoid root part to be wherever the player to teleport to is. Okay, so we're moving them to the second player. And now let's just do a print to say successfully moved, and let's just do a print up here as well, just to say TP function fired by sender.name. Okay, so now we should have a working admin command. Let's go and test it out. Okay, so here we are in a test server, and I'm going to test this out. I'm going to say /TP, and I'm going to write the name of my player, which is player 2, and I'm going to teleport them to player 1. Let's click enter and see what happens. Boom! I've been teleported to player 1's location. So excellent. And we can do the vice versa, opposite way around. So we can do TP player 1 to me, player 2. And they got teleported to me. So our admin command is working perfectly. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to have a list of admins, and we want to only allow a player to run a command if they are an admin. So to do that, we're going to make a second table at the top here called local admins. And what you need to do inside of this table is put the name of your admins in a string like this. So Alvin _Blox, and if you want to add another outside of the string, you do a semicolon or a comma, and then you put the next person on another line like this. Okay, so just the names of the players. Okay, so when you've done that, we now need to actually create another function to check if the player is an admin. So local function is admin, and we're going to send the player object. So we'll just declare up here as well, just to make it easier for us to remember that name is a string, but down here the player argument is going to be an object. That's what we're going to send to our function. So all we need to say is for underscore, because we don't need the I, comma. In fact, you could make this an underscore as well if you want. There we go. Just do that and do that. So you set it to an underscore when you don't need the I index. That's just good practice. So for underscore, comma, V in pairs or player. No, we'll do V because it's an admin table. It doesn't really matter. It's just the value inside of the table. For underscore V in pairs, admins. So we're looping through every single name in that admins table. And as it's a string, we need to compare it to the player's name. So if V, so the string, is equal to player.name, then if we have found the player's name in the admin table, then we can return true. But if we get to the end of the for loop and it hasn't returned true and stopped the function yet, we know that obviously we haven't found the player in the admin's table, so they can't be an admin, so we just return false. And now it's returning us a true or false value, so we're guaranteed to receive a Boolean value back because we're either returning true or we're returning false. And so when down here in our player.chatted event at the top here, we can say if is admin player then, and add an end down here, and then indent all of our code inside of it by pressing tab. Because the function is admin will return a true or a false value, it will turn our if statement into if true or if false then. So if they are an admin, it will be true, so that the if statement condition will run. But if it's false, then the condition will not run. So simple if statement there, which will basically run it if we're an admin, but if we're not, it won't work. So let's go ahead and remove myself off the admins list, like this. And if we try to do a command, okay, you can see nothing happened. Okay, even though I spelt the person's name wrong, it doesn't matter. You can see it didn't print to say that the function was fired. It didn't do any of that. So it didn't even fire in the first place because I am not an admin. I'm not on the admins list. But if I add myself back, even though we don't have any other players in the game, that's alright. We just need to see if it fired that print, and that will tell us whether the TP function fired or not. There we go. So it said TP function fired by Alvin Blox. So because we were on the admins list, it did fire that TP function. So we have just managed to create admin commands in Roblox in under 30 minutes in one script. Now you may be wondering, well, how do I add more commands, because we've just made a teleport command? But really, all you need to do is create your command, and we can call it, I don't know, speed, for example, and then equals, just create a new function, and don't forget, all the time we'll have sender, and we'll also have our arguments, and the only thing that you can send in our arguments table is going to be player names. So just a list of player names that come after our prefix and command name, because you say speed me, and then you say, well, you either say a player name, don't you, and then you say a number. So in this case, you're going to say a number. Okay, so what's going to happen is the arguments are just going to be, it's going to look like this. If you want it to be /speed me 30, then the arguments table is going to look like this, because it's just taken out the /speed command. It's going to be me, comma 30, like this. Okay, and the 30 is going to be a string because it's all a message. It's a string data type. So what we can do is we can say, let's think about this. So local player to give speed to equals, in fact, we're not going to do me, by the way. It's going to be a player name. We're not that advanced yet to use the me command, because that won't work. So player to give speed to will be the first argument, won't it? Now, you could do it the other way around. If you wanted to have the number first, that's up to you. Then you'd want the player name to be second. Just change it to arguments 2. So you can manipulate the arguments. It's all good. The arguments table is just the next pieces of text that come after the command name. So you can manipulate it all you want. So we've got the player to give speed to and the local amount of speed to give. And that's going to be arguments 2, the second argument in this case, because it's the 30. So what we need to do is, again, find the player. So local player equals find player to give speed to. Because we've put in a string, the name of the player, to give the speed to here. And this function is going to return to us that player's player object if they are a real player. And let's just check if the player to give speed to is not nil and it's not a blank value. So if it is an actual, a string, it's got some text in there, then we're going to find that player. And if the player is a real player object as well, then we can say player.character.humanoid.walkspeed equals amount of speed to give. But because it is a string, we need to convert it to a number. So we can say to number, and we put the string in there, and it's going to convert it to a number, and then we can update the player's walk speed to that number. So let's print player.name, or player to give speed to, was given walk speed ... amount of speed to give. We don't need to worry about converting it to a to number here because it's already in string form and we're printing out a string. So let's see if this works. So we're going to do print speed command fired by sender.name because the sender object, of course, is an object. So let's test this out. So I've just showed you how you can make a new command from scratch. And you see how easy it is to add new commands once you've done that. So speed Alvin _Blox 50. So it says Alvin Blox was given walk speed 50 and that the speed command was fired by me. And there we go, my speed has indeed increased to 50. So I could say speed Alvin _Blox 500 and it's done it again. So how cool is this? We've just made our own admin commands. And because we coded the main frame, the main function down here, to, fire the function, the command name, we haven't actually fired a specific function. Because we've designed it like this, we don't need to edit any of this again. We just need to add a new command up here. And we've got our command in there. How awesome is this? And again, let me just show you this. Let's do some error testing. So if we call a command that isn't valid, nothing's going to happen. So that's good because it's not inside of the commands table. And because we've got this validation, checking if the command is in the commands table, obviously it isn't. So it's not going to run this code unless it's a valid command. So that's good. Let's just try giving the wrong name of a player or a player that isn't here. Okay, so it has fired the command, but let me just show you that again. It fired it, but it didn't apply the walk speed to the player because the player to give speed to, it was not an actual player. It was nil. So it returned nil. So it didn't return the player object, it returned nil. And if it's nil, it won't run whatever's in the if statement. And one more time, let's just check to see what happens when you don't give it enough arguments. Okay, so again, fired the speed command, but because there was no amount of speed to give, in fact, that's a good idea actually. What we could do is just check that and amount of speed to give. So if there is an amount of speed to give there that isn't nil, then it's going to run the code. So awesome, guys. We've just made admin commands in Roblox in 35 minutes, which is awesome. So you can add as many commands as you like, because we've designed it in a way that just makes it really easy to do so. You just do the commands table, dot, and then you put the name of your command. If you want to change the name of the command, you can do so. Very, very simple admin commands. Advanced scripting. You guys have been asking for an advanced scripting tutorial, so I've delivered and I've given you one. So if you've enjoyed the video, please give a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Alvin Blox, for more Roblox scripting videos. Share it with a friend who may be who may want to see this video in the future. If you would like to take the source code from this project, you can become a channel member, a premium member for $4.99 a month, and that way you'll get access to the source code. But if not, you can just copy along from the video and it will help you learn. I do want to give a shout out to Emerald Slash on the developer forum, who inspired me to make this tutorial. I saw he posted a tutorial of his own, so I thought, yeah, why don't I challenge myself to make my own admin commands, and I can share it with you guys. So shout out to you, and thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, bye.